Reductive portrait drawing from life. What you'll need for this project includes a light for lighting your figure, paper, powdered charcoal, a brush, vine charcoal, compressed charcoal, a charcoal pencil, I suggest soft because it blends nicely, a kneaded eraser, and an eraser pen. The first step to the reductive drawing process is to cover your page with charcoal. While you're applying the powdered charcoal to your piece of paper, you want to avoid using your brush like an actual paintbrush to make a painting. Instead, you want to do circular motions that's grinding the particles of the charcoal into your paper. This helps the charcoal stay on the page rather than being released into the air. If you have a lot of excess charcoal dust on your paper, you can shake it off onto the ground or into the trash. Once you position the model, you're going to suggest to them to pick a spot in the room to focus on. If they're always looking in that direction, they're more likely to be able to focus and stay still while you're creating their portrait. Now that the model's in position, you can focus on lighting the face. While you're working with the light, you're going to want to make sure that you create interesting shadows that are cast upon the face. This is going to help make your portrait look 3D as you're drawing it. You will probably position your light off to the side so that you have nice cast shadows and a bit of reflected light on the side of the face. For a reductive portrait drawing, instead of using charcoal or a pencil, you're actually going to use your eraser to make your initial marks. This process is a great way for working through a drawing that's going to need lots of alterations. So as you're working through your initial proportions and angles, you are able to use your brush to cover things up and rework your drawing easily. Your eraser makes it so that you can keep on doing these proportions over and over again without leaving marks of the charcoal on the page. Once your kneaded eraser starts to have a buildup of charcoal on the surface, you can begin to knead it and it becomes self-cleaning, so you can use it over and over again. You're almost creating a ghost-like image for the first layer that's just made up of lights and darks. It's important to remember to be always looking at your model and then glancing down at your page. Your eyes should focus on your model and what their face actually looks like, rather than looking down at what you're creating. You can keep glancing down to make sure you're in the correct spots, but you don't want to focus on your drawing in particular. Instead, focus on your model. I also suggest starting at a point in the face that's in the middle or to the side that may include high contrast, instead of creating the outside shape of the face and then confining yourself to a certain size for the features of the face. You also want to make sure that you're still thinking about composition while you're creating a portrait. Although most of the time it's usually placed in the center, you want to make sure that it's large enough to still activate the edges of the page and not become something that's stuck in the middle of the page. I also want to make sure that I'm not creating a floating head. I'm going to add a neck and clothing along with the hair that's going to help activate all the edges of this piece. Once you're confident that your proportions match up, you will then be able to start going in with your charcoal. You can start using vine charcoal to fill in the dark portions of your drawing and also to start defining your features. While we were primarily using shape while we were using our eraser and we were just blocking in shapes, now that we have our vine charcoal, you can start to define by using line. Vine charcoal is not a permanent material. In fact, it can turn into powder itself. After you have this placed on the page, you want to make sure you go over it with compressed charcoal. The vine charcoal then becomes a blending material, and you can blend it with the compressed to make nice soft transitions that you most likely will use on the skin of the portrait. We're starting out very general, and then we will move to specific. So we're working with shape and line, and then later we'll start adding more value and texture, and then creating details to make it look like the specific person we're drawing. Once you start working with the compressed charcoal, you blend a lot with your finger and you can start to see the form of the face really come to life. You can create different values by applying a lot or a little of your compressed charcoal. In combination with that, the pressure of your finger really will determine how much charcoal is left on the page. If you put a lot of pressure, it may be darker, and if you just lightly skim with your finger, it may become lighter. You can also take away from some of your dark areas if it became too dark by using your kneaded eraser as more of a blending tool and lightly skimming over your compressed charcoal. For smaller, more detailed areas, you may want to move to start using your pencil. This is also a form of compressed charcoal, but in a smaller surface area. For the darks, you'll use your pencil, and for your lights, you can use your eraser pen. While you're working with the eye, it's important to remember the white of the eye. The white of the eye is rarely truly bright white, and in fact, you want to make sure that it's looking like it's going back into the face, so you want to add value to those corners so that it looks like it's sitting within the skin, rather than something on top of the skin. You also want to use the white of the eye to help you measure the shape of the pupil and the shape of the iris. Make sure you think about the top eyelid and the bottom eyelid as well. They may be just slight changes, but adding those in will really help to give definition to the shape of the face in that area. As you can see, there's lots of layering to this. It's lots of taking charcoal away and then adding it back on in order to get the values correct. To help make the eye look wet, you can add a little bit of highlights. I think this part really helps your portrait come to life. When you're working with the eyebrows, you really want to focus on the way that the hairs are growing from the face. Are they growing up? Are they coming together in a clump? And how are they shaping around the eye? With eyelashes and eyebrows, you want to make sure that you're looking to see where the light's hitting them. Are some of the eyelashes light or are they dark? For a 30-minute life drawing, there's no time to draw every individual hair using a pencil or your eraser. Instead, you want to think of value blocking. If there's sections that are darker underneath, you can put dark down and then use your eraser pen to come through and do some strokes over top that are lighter. Or vice versa. If there's some lighter areas, you could use your eraser to make nice thick areas of light and then use your pencil, your charcoal pencil, to do some strokes over top that create the dark lines. For the side of the face that's in the light, you may want to use vine charcoal to create your values instead of using compressed. If you do use compressed, you can take little bits that are already on your finger and blend it into the face on that side.